In this video, we'll discuss how to see grief and sadness on someone's face and what to do to support that process. Enjoy. In today's video, we're going to discuss seeing grief and sadness on the face. So the question becomes, if we see this in another person or we see it in ourselves, what to do about it? The basic underpinning theory is that if we see an excessively engaged emotional pattern, it's okay to feel our emotions, but emotions ideally should be temporal. They should come and go. And if we're seeing really deeply carved emotion into the face, typically what that means is the person has spent a very long time with that emotion. And ultimately, we all need to make a decision to move forward. The East says you have to take an actionable step at some point. So this isn't to say you can't feel your emotions. You should process them, but you can't sit there forever. You do have to engage and you do have to move forward. You have to engage the clutch so that life can continue moving forward and healing can progress. That being said, the area of the face that we're going to look at is right here on the cheeks. Okay, so it's an extension of what they call the joy line. So if you look at here, when I smile, I get these lines right here. These are technically favorable in face reading. These are healthy. This means the joy and the happiness of a person is pretty consistently carved into their life terrain. However, if we see these lines extend and cut and carve down into the cheek, and the deeper they go and the longer they get, the more pronounced that sadness has been. This is where we need to sort of assess the emotional terrain of the person, especially if it's yourself. So we can't heal other people. What we can do is provide stimulus to people, and people kind of heal themselves. It's a choice we all make internally. But especially when we're working with ourselves, we can ask ourselves some very real questions. So if we see this excessive sadness being carved into the face, the question is what to do about it. There's two approaches. It's what they call the mother and child theory. So if we look at the 5-element wheel, if we're looking at sadness, the metal element is out of whack. The metal element processes grief and sadness, and it's processed by the lungs. So the preceding element in the 5-element wheel is earth. That's called the mother, all right? That's the preceding element. Now, the proceeding element after metal is water. That would be called the child. So what we're looking at here is which one do we address? And again, these questions are better asked in relation to yourself, because you're going to have a better read on yourself than you are going to be attempting to diagnose other people and trying to, digest other people's shadows in their process. So in the most rudimentary sense, you have to ask yourself, what would help my grief and sadness? Would it be fortification, bolstering, and strengthening a certain emotional patterns? And we're going to go over what those are. But intuitively ask yourself, would it be better for me to be bolstered, strengthened? Do I feel deficient? If you're answering yes to those things, chances are the earth element is probably going to be the direction to go. However, if you feel excessively full, you feel overwhelmed, you feel overburdened, you're carrying the weight of the world, chances are likely you're going to want to go the water or the child route to drain out the element. So in the loosest sense, without getting too deep into theory, think, what intuitively feels right to me? Bolstering and strengthening and tonifying, or draining, sedating, and calming things down? That gives you a basic metric on which elements to look at. So the earth element specifically, okay, if you're feeling like strength and fortification is more the approach that feels right to you, you're going to want to engage supportive and nurturing people. These are earth element themes, things that relate to house and home, quality food, and steady states to success, which means consistency. Engaging those earth metrics and those earth rhythms are the way that you are going to essentially strengthen the earth element, and in turn, as it moves into the metal element, that's going to get stronger, and that helps the energy move through the 5-element cycle. That's approach one. Approach two is, again, sedating and draining and getting things to calm down and settle down, turning the volume down. That's water. So water is about engaging awe and wonderment. It's about stillness, meditation, being adaptable, moving like water, and then harnessing willpower via discipline. So if you're able to think about that, that's the way you're going to sort of drain things out, is by going through those water emotional patterns. So this is a basic idea to think about. 5-element theory is very relevant. We all have to engage these rhythms at some point, But the takeaway with face reading in the Eastern philosophy is they give you some very directive metrics on how to do it and when to do it. So all humans are going to go through this, but it's nice to have a template, to have a framework to say, all right, if I'm feeling this thing and it's a bit excessive, I've got two primary approaches on how I can regulate this. So again, these questions are better asked and more easily navigated if you're addressing yourself. But if you see this in someone else, these are the dialogues that you can kind of work into the conversation. You can sort of do a little bit of very polite hunting through the conversation. You can ask questions. Would being supported and being around nurturing people and having a dinner party, would that kind of thing help you? Or would those other things, about maybe being still in meditation and being adaptable, would those things help you? You can be creative in how you approach these things with people, but again, this should give you a basic lay of the land should you see excessive grief on yourself or others. All right, take care, y'all.